There has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 281, Concern, Projection, and the Myth of the Extreme Vegan. Who was that? Okay, who was that coughing? Just me? I don't think so. There has been a whole lot of coughing going on. Hopefully by the time you are hearing this episode, kids, you and we are through it. But what was that coughing virus? People from all over have been telling me that they or theirs have been coughing to the point of not only discomfort, but fractured ribs and even hernias. I have never, ever heard so many stories, horror stories, about a bad cough. Now, for vegans and plant-based folks, it's not only gross and uncomfortable and makes it hard to sleep or function or record podcasts, it's also kind of bad for the brand. Even though I never make health claims about being vegan because number one, I am not a medical professional, and number two, there are a million ways to be vegan. They're not all healthy. There are vegans who smoke and drink and eat like a 90s runway model. But whenever you have something wrong with you and you don't eat animals or the stuff that comes out of them, someone is bound to seize upon that as a conversation starter. Maybe you're not getting enough protein, Michele, or calcium / collagen / iron / creatine / taurine / heme, whatever corporate supplements are being fear marketed to us at the time. So, in spite of the fact that I and you almost certainly got any virus we have from an omnivore, and in spite of the fact that urgent care and ERs are not being overwhelmed by vegan and plant-based flu patients this winter, never mind. Okay? Rant over. Okay, first part of the rant over. But there is going to be a little bit of a rant today. And if you've been listening to me for 5 years, you might not like it. It's not usually how I show up, and I'm not sure I even like it, but I did want to bring this up this week because I do know a lot of you get this too. We get all the well-meaning, are you sure? So this came up a lot for me this past year in particular, because 2025 was my turn to have to deal with a lot of doctorate visits. 2025 brought kind of a lot of those conversations my way, not with physicians, mind you, not with medical professionals, but the people who cosplay health professional in their private lives or online, because I had a bunch of things going on, and I don't want to overshare boring details, but I had a thyroid ablation in March to zap some nodules that developed in the 90s, in the last century, about 25 years before I went vegan. And along the way, it was time to deal with some osteoporosis that I had been diagnosed with also way before I went vegan. And that was treated with a medication that may have aggravated some AFib that I seemed to develop after a bad flu in 2024, which also, I'm sure, was spread by people who are not vegan. So then, this is not my usual podcast, is it? So then in November, I had a cardiac ablation for that AFib, which the docs hoped the thyroid ablation in March would have improved, but no. So it was a year with kind of a cluster of things that all converged. So even well-meaning friends who are quote-unquote supportive and of course almost vegan themselves, yes, here comes the rant, even well-meaning friends and acquaintances have kind of hopefully prodded and asked whether maybe I wanted to start eating animals again. Has this ever happened to you? If so, I want you to keep in mind that this very well may not be about you at all. Now, I've hesitated to talk about this topic all year, but I realized it is not just my experience. And you know why? You know why it's been annoying? It's annoying because, first of all, none of my doctors or healthcare providers or the registered dietitians I've seen, and I've seen a bunch of them this year, none of them has expressed concern about my nutrition. My blood tests, which have been taken, I can't even count how many times, have been excellent except for my thyroid panels. Hence, some of the work we had to do there. My blood work, right down to vitamin D and B12 and iron levels, has been excellent. But the idea that I would go through all these tests and panels and appointments and then not even listen to medical advice about how to care for myself is kind of patronizing and annoying. You know, even the definition of the Vegan Society, which is just their definition of the word, there is no international court on the subject of how you conduct your vegan practice. But even the Vegan Society uses in the definition of vegan as far as possible and practicable. A lifestyle aiming to exclude animal exploitation and cruelty as far as is possible and practicable. And these comments that maybe you've received and that I've been getting lately from patronizing folks implying that I'm somehow self-destructive or pointlessly monastically ascetic, drove me crazy. So, FYI, in case I need to explain it to anyone, if I were in need of nutrition that was unavailable from plants, or if I were to find myself unable to digest or metabolize nutrition from plants, I would do my level best to find ways to nourish myself in a way that was as sustainable and least exploitative as possible. Maybe shellfish, maybe eggs from home-loved chickens, maybe, I don't know. I would do the best I could, given resources and advice and the opinion of health professionals. And if I were to speak to someone or coach someone and the medical advice they had been given was that they not be 100% plant-based, the idea that I would judge them or not support them is also not only completely incorrect, but really pretty insulting. Okay, you can tell I'm not my usual self, right? Maybe it's the virus. But in my case, it's not the case now that anyone with a medical opinion thinks I should add in animal products. And I find it annoying. I find it insulting, if I'm honest, that a lot of these people are the ones who are most likely to tell me that they're basically vegan too. So I'm sharing this. I'm sharing all my outrage with you this week in case it's kind of been an issue in your home or in your workplace or even online, because it really kind of crawled up my typically sunny and optimistic outlook this year more than a couple of times. That people would seem to imply that I'm such a nut, that I'm somehow refusing to support my health and vitality and going against medical advice. But then I start to see, this is not actually about me, and I bet it's not about you. I think that this is what so many people want to think. People want to think that being plant-based or vegan is extreme, that it's not really healthy or sustainable, that they're too active, or maybe they're too old, that you have to be somehow extreme and dogmatic and irrational. And those thoughts are not about me. They're not about those of us who limit or have eliminated the consumption of animal products for ethical or sustainability reasons. It's about them, not me. It's about them protecting themselves from examining their own choices by being, quote, concerned, air quotes, about me. Okay, and when I'm annoyed, yes, I am less charitable. That's true. Can you tell? And maybe I thought you'd like to hear that though I am committed to being helpful and reasonable and positive, things do occasionally get under my skin. So even if comments like, have you thought that maybe being vegan isn't working for you? Even if those comments are thoughtful and well-meaning and not self-justification, at the very least, it's an example of the cultural brainwashing we have all grown up with, that confining, force-feeding, industrially slaughtering, and then eating some animals is just normal. It's just normal, natural, and necessary, as Dr. Melanie Joy calls those 3 N's. And that we vegans must be irrational and unrealistic and extreme. So, rant over. Well, mostly over. Probably over. I don't know. I just know that I'm not the only one who gets this or gets annoyed by this, and I thought that maybe it was the moment, as I'm getting over this cough, for me to share my thoughts in what is probably an uncharacteristic episode. I would love you to reach out and let me know if you have had this experience. And I don't mean from trolls on the internet. Honestly, who cares what they say? I mean from people who think of themselves as supportive. And if you are in a situation where, you can't be 100% whole food plant-based, or you can't be 100% vegan, remember, how you go vegan is how you do everything. Just as in every other situation, at work, in your life, there are external realities. There are external realities that we attempt to live within, and they are not ideal, they are not perfect. So I hope that you will be proud of yourself and kind to yourself and veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.